Today, I want to talk to you guys about looking for help from others and looking inward to understand yourself better. So, I'm just going to preface that I'm no expert at this, but I feel this year it's something that I've really opened myself up to and tried to understand better. And I want to talk about my journey so far. So, I think I have always felt like that I listen to myself quite well. I'm very self-aware as an individual. So I kind of feel like I've always just rolled with the punches and just do what I want to do. I always feel like quite confident that I'm making the right decision. I don't really like question myself that much. Obviously I do have like a normal amount of questioning of myself, but I think able to make very big decisions that maybe some other people might find like super daunting sometimes, a lot easier, like moving country and things like that. Um, However, I think over time and as I've gotten older and more adulthood, like I guess getting more responsibilities, life gets more complex, you become more senior at work, you become, more accomplished in other areas. You just have like added layers of, I guess, like responsibilities and complexities to your life. It becomes more difficult sometimes to keep like an open mind and take time to yourself to really like, I guess, reflect. Um, but this is something I think this year I unintentionally opened myself up to improving. I think it all started essentially because I work at a company where they're very strong on your purpose and your vision as an individual and just like your values and how that fundamentally I guess influences your goal setting and your career progression. So I think the mantra is essentially like understanding yourself so that you can bring your best self to work and then also make the best decisions for yourself career wise, um, by understanding yourself better. Um, and I love it because I think it's something that I don't naturally do. So it forces me to do something that's really different to the way I would normally think. Like, I don't think I mean, as much as I think it's so cute that people like journal and I don't know, like do certain mindfulness activities that I think are more, I don't want to say the word generic, but more like, I guess, advertised and commercially like understood as a mindful act. Um, I'm just not naturally drawn to sitting down and like being still, meditating or like writing out my thoughts. I would love to be, but I just am not. And that's okay. I recognize that. So, because I don't naturally prioritize that time to myself to reflect or be mindful, I think it's really good to kind of be forced to do it. Like it helps me um, carve out the time. So I think when I first did the like values and like purpose and vision and writing it out, I found it kind of a bit jolting because I don't think I've ever sat down and really just like filled out a form of sorts or just like a paper written down what I think are the answers to those questions slash open ended questions slash prompts. And so it was really strange at first to sit there and really like write it out. And it took me some time to, I guess, change my mindset to really think like, okay, like there's no judgment here. This is just you and a piece of paper. Like, really, what is it? Like, but I think the difficult part was looking inwards and actually thinking, do I actually have those answers within me? Do I know? Um, but what I would say is I think I took some time and I did fill it out. I think the first time I looked at it, I was like, this gives me a headache. Like, I need to come back to it another day when I have a clearer state of mind and I can actually dedicate myself to this because it genuinely takes a lot of time to just sit there and really like think about it. So I came back to it a second time and um, I wrote out like my values and wrote out like my vision and purpose, and that was really interesting. And I think the thing that I took away the most was like the values kind of stuck with me, the values part of it. It's kind of what I want to discuss a bit more today. So I think I've done this exercise once or twice now, where I map out like my values and like how that feeds into my purpose and vision. But for my values, I initially wrote them down, and I think I came back to them and like refined them a bit more. And honestly, I know that I wrote them down as my values, but I had to keep like referring back to the document that I filled out to make sure that like to be like, oh, what are my values again? Because I'm not used to attaching like a label or a word to my values. And I think when I was filling out my values, I feel like they were all things that I knew that it was my value, but I had never put a word attached to it. So when I saw the word like, oh, discipline, oh yeah, that makes sense. Like that actually I like I'm drawn to that word, I'm drawn to that value. And I think for me, my definition of it is like I think it ties back to me. So because it didn't come naturally and I don't think we like born to be like, oh, like I am naturally confident. You know what I mean? Like I'm naturally like curious. I'm naturally like I persevere, you know? Like those things you don't naturally attach yourself to those emotions or those values. So I took a lot of time to really absorb them. And to this day, I know them generally, but I still sometimes need to look back and just like remind myself of what they are, which is probably like kind of a good activity because it keeps you grounded and like anchored to your values. Anyway, so I wrote down my values and then I didn't really do much with them. I kind of just like let them sit there. And which probably didn't help my memorizing of them either, which is it's not a task to memorize, but yeah. And so I didn't really come back to them until I started coaching this year. So there's a coaching program at work, so I just had to sign up for it. Why did I sign up for it? I just thought like it would be actually I kind of feel like I was like going all in on like personal development because I also set up for mentoring as well. And I was like, yep, I'm going to be mentoring. I'm going to be a mentor as well. And then I'm going to coach. Like, no, not me coach. I'm going to get coached. So I'd always heard about coaching. I watched it in like Billions when Wendy's like the personal development like coach. It's such an interesting space. And I love talking to people. I love like hearing from other people as well. So I felt like it would be a good thing for me to try. And going into coaching, I didn't really know what to expect. I guess like I didn't really know the true definition of what a coach was, how that was differentiated from a mentor. And so it was really like eye-opening and very valuable to do the coaching. So the reason I chose to do coaching, was because I was curious, but also I felt like I was curious. And I'll delve into kind of like what I've like learned and realized from doing coaching. So essentially when I first took on a coach at work, I really didn't know like what I wanted to get out of it. Like they gave me this form to fill out and I was like, oh, I think I like want XYZ. Like I knew like key things that were kind of bothering me or felt like I wanted to grow in. But in a sense, I didn't have like a huge laundry list of things that I really, really wanted to be coached on and nothing like groundbreaking that I wanted to change in me as a person. I guess I just wanted to see how it went. So bless my coach because like I feel like I went there. She thinks that I went there with a clear definition of what I wanted, but I feel like in a way, being my personality, was like answering a lot of my own questions whilst talking to her. But anyway, so I didn't really know how it would play out, but my first session was really good because my coach really like set the tone of like what coaching was. And essentially, coaching is they believe that you actually know the answer within you and have the answer within you. They're just asking the right questions to help you get to your answer, which I thought was really interesting when I first heard it because I was like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. Like, okay, I see how this is like the approach to coaching that this coach takes, right? There's different approaches. And then I guess the differentiation with mentoring is that a mentor is like they can share their experiences with you. So it's like, oh, I'm having trouble with XYZ. Like, how did you deal with that? It's more of a conversation, whereas coaching is more you're leaning on me to ask you the right questions, but I'm not here to share my experiences, which I thought was interesting. Yeah, so I really enjoyed that style of coaching. And my values and my appreciation for values and understanding of the importance of values really grew through coaching because I was forced to use my values in my coaching sessions. So my coach was really interesting. She would ask me like, at the first things she asked me was like, what are your values? So I told her what my values were. And then she just anchored to them. And to the point that she would reference them and I'd be like, oh crap, that is my value. Let me go back and just validate that is my value. And just reiterating, I do actually align with these values. I just don't know them like memorized at the top of my head. So like, you know, we talk about a situation or something that I was struggling with or like wanted to like kind of talk more about. And my coach would, you know, really say to me like, okay, how did that value show up for you in that moment? How did you align to your value in that moment? Or like, which value did you call upon most in that moment? Or like when you're in XYZ, like if you're feeling like you're doing a mundane activity that you don't like, what value do you call on to help you energize yourself and get through that? Which I thought was so interesting because I never ever thought about values in that way. Never ever like attached it to thinking about how a value was showing up in my day to day. And so I found it really insightful and thought provoking. And that's where it allowed me to start to think about my values more and really realize like how valuable they are to you as a person, not just in your career, but just you generally as a person. Um, yeah, so I started to actually like take this on as a habit and have realized now, like, you know, when I am doing day to day things or I am stuck in a moment where I'm unsure of myself, I do think like, oh, like what value am I calling on in this moment? Like it does help me kind of re-ground myself and remind myself of like who I am, what my fundamentals are, and how that like who do I want to be in that moment and when making a certain decision or acting a certain way, and does it align with those values? So I find it like a really good like compass point in my life now to really call upon, which I think are essentially the point, like the whole idea of having a value of like of your values is that you also unintentionally or, you know, instinctively call upon them because they're rooted in you. I think the other part of, you know, calling on my values or the questions that my coach would ask me, such like as, what is your heart telling you to do? What would your 95-year-old self to ask you or like tell you in this situation, is all just about perspective, right? So like, I think the things that I value from having a coach was like a different perspective. It wasn't even that my coach was sharing like their experience, but actually they were just asking me questions to think in a different way and to make sure that I was having a different perspective on a situation. And I love this because I think we are not often like prompted or provoked in life to be introspective. We are like rats in a race, I guess. What's the ball that they run in? Anyway, whatever. We are just all rats in a race, like chasing after one like goal or, you know, growth or future or, you know, success, money, like achieving things. It's all just like forward direction, but we never really often look like inwards towards ourselves and think in that moment, oh, what did I gain from that experience? Why was that valuable to me? Where did my values show up? What is my purpose? You know, and that's like, I think these, you know, the existential crises that people have sometimes, or like, you know, like, I don't know, what they quarter life crisis, midlife crisis, etc. They're all very natural things because I think honestly, like we do not frequently check in with ourselves. And that leads to us kind of running this long race and then looking back and saying like, oh, like, why did I do that? Like, who am I? What do I actually enjoy? Who am I? Like, what are my values? And so I think I find it really valuable. And find coaching this year has really opened my mind, as you can tell, to think differently, to be more in tune with what I need versus what I want. Especially with me, because I'm very logical. I think logic versus like heart, you know, feel versus thinking, all of that. I think this is super valuable because we all are very multidimensional, right? We actually have so many different sides to ourselves, but we just need to kind of be provoked and we need to trigger that emotion or that personality or that perspective, because we're all capable of having different perspectives and you know, having empathy for even yourself in different situations from different perspectives. But I don't think we are often invited to do that And so I think finding a way to allow yourself to do that and to remind yourself to do that is really important. And that's why I love like some of my friends who have, they have cards where you would pull out and like be like, oh, you're a whale, and this is like these are like the attributes of this animal, and that offers them like a different perspective on something that they're thinking about on the day. And I love that because like that's that's their own form of looking inwards, understanding different perspectives, and keeping an open mind. And I'd just like to say, I think it's so easy in this day and age to really be so like tunnel visioned and one track minded towards things that you really have to like tap into that inner self and find a way to step back and see things from a different view. One thing I also really liked, and I think it's very like true to my personality, is like my coach reminded me to like celebrate, and I think properly celebrate, right? So like I think essentially I achieved this big project at work, and I was kind of like feeling very lost of like, oh, where to next? What's like the next thing that I can create impact on? And I was feeling a bit deflated and kind of like, I guess also a bit like tired at the thought of like trying to have to find something else and what the next thing was. And I think it was really interesting because, my coach was like, well, have you even stopped to like celebrate what you've already achieved? And I was like, oh yeah, like I know I achieved XYZ, but she's like, but have you actually celebrated? Like go out to dinner, I know you get a pedicure, do a manicure, like dance, do something. And I was like, no, I haven't. And it was a really good reminder to just step back and celebrate, which I think is super important once again, right? Like giving yourself the space to actually reflect on what you've done is so important. I am not good at that. Like I am just not good at that. I think I'm often like, ooh, did that, keep going. Or like, ooh, that happened. Ooh, that wasn't great. Like keep going, right? But like retrospectives with yourself, retrospective of like, how did that go? Did you like that? Did you achieve what you wanted? If you didn't, why? What could you have done better? Sounds like super like worky, but you actually have to do it with yourself because I don't think we spend the time doing it enough. We just quickly like pass the time and like move on. So yeah. Another thing that I've been working on that I found like really valuable recently is I mean there's a trend here if you haven't realized. I'm generally like a very rushed, not I wouldn't say I'm a rushed person, but I do like to do a lot of things in a day with my time. I have this like overarching sense of, oh my God, be productive. Like you need to do XYZ. It's just inbuilt in me from like childhood growing up. I'll speak about that in a different podcast, but like feeling the need to always show that I'm doing something, right? It's just become a natural personality that I'm very like I want to do things like all the time. But there are definitely things that I don't really enjoy doing, like folding the washing, like washing the dishes. Sometimes if I'm like rushed to make a dinner meal because I'm like I want to eat and I'm hungry, And I think a common trend for me in my life sometimes is not giving myself enough space and time to do things properly. So recently I've been trying to give myself more space and time and remind myself to not rush. Because honestly, sometimes the things that I rush that I think are so bothersome and taking so much time genuinely take like 5 minutes. And I have to remind myself, like, this is 5 minutes. Spend 5 minutes properly doing this task and you'll be done with it and you won't have to do it twice. Because I find sometimes I do something and then I'm like, yeah, okay, just say I am loading the dishwasher and with the dirty dishes and I'm rushing it because I feel like I have so many other things to do and I don't have the time, and then I spill things on the floor. I accidentally like drop a bowl or something like that. That's just really troublesome and unnecessary um an unnecessary hindrance, honestly. All because I want to rush and I don't want to be patient. So I've been really actively trying to be like more patient which is something, a flaw of mine that I'm not good at. I'm quite impatient as a person. But to when I'm doing something, I tell myself like, okay, slow down, focus, and take your time, because it's only going to take you an extra minute to do it right and do it once. And it's really been helping. I feel like I have to definitely actively remind myself to do it. But it's good because I think I'm making small improvements myself. I'm trying to improve my state of well-being where I can and where I can control it, and reminding myself to just change my pace and change my approach. So I've really enjoyed that, and I think it's, it's small wins, it's small things sometimes in life that get you a long way. Okay, so I think I wanted to kind of like summarize a point slash offer some advice. If you guys don't like do your own self practice of like, I don't know, some sort of reflection, goal setting, journaling, understanding yourself, like knowing your values, I strongly suggest it. You don't have to go like all out. You don't need to go and like do this every week or day. I do this like once every 3 months, maybe 6 months. But being able to like sit down and identify what your values, I think that's a really great place to start. I genuinely feel that knowing my values has been really groundbreaking this year, and really that next level of questioning where my values show up in my life, like an understanding and listening to in my journey and reflecting like, where did those values show up for you? It's really been a breath of fresh air. I don't know why I'm struggling to speak, but it's been really, really, I think, peaceful in a way, and has given me inner understanding of who I am. And I think it's genuinely made me more confident as a person to know, you know, what is a priority to me? What is my value? What do I anchor myself to? And in a situation where I feel like pressed, or I feel that I'm not sure, I'm really able to call upon that and understand myself in those situations. So I don't know. I feel like try a value exercise, pull up a YouTube video, try a values, like document them, like plenty of resources online, and just try and jot down what your values are. But also keep in mind your values are always going to change, because we are ever evolving as humans, right? Like a value that I had when I was younger might not be a value I have now. Value I have right now might not be a value I have in 10 years, right? You are changing. It depends on your circumstances and your priorities in life. Two, I think speaking to a third party is quite interesting. So if you have the resources, like, I don't know, like free resources, or through work, through community offerings, try it out. I think it's really interesting to try coaching, and maybe you can even try mentoring, like whatever is like most helpful for you, to kind of gain a different perspective and hear a different voice. I think it helps you remind yourself that you're like not the only person in the world going through XYZ, right? It's a very normal feeling. And I also think sometimes it validates or devalidates like whatever you're feeling. I have a tendency to be generally more hard on myself. So I feel like being able to have somebody there and say like, hey, chill out, or like remind myself to chill out by talking about it, is really helpful. My last thing is, I think, just keep self-aware and listen to yourself. I have a very loud inner voice. Like I think I'm very self-aware of what I'm doing, who I am. Obviously, like there's either an end of the spectrum there. Like don't be too self-critical or too self-aware. Sometimes just like live in the moment. But being able to check in with yourself, maybe quarterly, like every 3 months, just to see like, hey, am I tracking where I want to be? How am I feeling about XYZ? Reflecting on big moments, reflecting on things, you know, big moments, like anything in life, work, friends, family, love, life. Just really taking the time to reflect. Because I think often, just to touch on this, I feel like often with relationships, people do not take the time to reflect. They like don't take that time to grieve whatever they've gone through, and then they just jump into the next thing. It's so easy to fill voids with like other people, with other experiences, with other things, but I think giving yourself the space and time to listen to yourself and be self-aware and understand what you need in that moment and serve yourself that way is very valuable. Anyway, I really hope you enjoyed this podcast. I hope you guys go and, I don't know, jot down your values, share your values with me if you want in the comments, on Instagram or on YouTube, or you can also do it in Spotify. But I'd love to hear from you guys. It's an open space. See y'all on the next one. Bye.